Today, we're looking at Sony's 2019 entry-level smartphone, the Xperia L3. Am I wrong, but isn't that the name of that feminist robot from that film Solo, A Star Wars Story?
Gonna flip your switch! Good luck finding it! L3!
Anyway, you're here for the review, so let's go. As you know, Sony are not one to follow the usual smartphone trends, and this is a gift and a curse for Sony fans like us. The gift is no notch, just a 5.7-inch 720p 303 pixels per inch IPS LCD display protected by Gorilla Glass 5. And the curse is a considerable amount of forehead and chin, but the glass looking finish over the back of the device, which covers a subtly glittered surface, actually looks really nice when the light hits it. And the diamond cut bezels around the camera module is also a nice touch. So the design is pretty old school, but I'm a pretty old school kind of guy and I still like wired headphones. And guess what? The Xperia L3 does have a headphone jack. Also, all of the Sony Xperias of 2019 have returned to the old school side-mounted fingerprint reader that we saw from them a few years back. And the implementation of this actually looks pretty nice. And it keeps the design arguably more ergonomic than last year's XE3 and XE2, just based off of its placement. Also, this time around, the fingerprint reader is not doubled up as a power button, and maybe this helps with the accuracy of the fingerprint reader, or maybe it was just cheaper for Sony to do it that way. But in my opinion, I actually quite like it because digging your finger into that thumbprint reader is not ideal, and this is just a bit more effortless. I'm a fan of that. So this entry-level 2019 Xperia does have a USB-C port, which I was happy to see. It's more convenient, and I think most of you out there will agree with me. The volume rocker is just below the fingerprint reader, and I think it's in a good position. Also, at the base of the phone is a single firing downward speaker. And it's important to remember this isn't the best from Sony in 2019. Stay tuned to WhatGear for more videos on the mid-range of flagship models in the future. First and foremost, the Xperia L3 might be one of the most comfortable Sony phones I've held in a long time. It has no sharp corners and nice round edges, and even where it meets the screen there is no jaggedy surfaces. The Xperia L3 at the time of this video is running on Android Oreo, and Sony have done a good job of not filling the device with too much bloatware out of the box. Powering the device's performance is the MediaTek 6762 and 3GB of RAM, which isn't bad, but it would have been nice to have seen a Snapdragon in there, but hey, that might cost a bit more, and if you're considering this device, the price point will be important to you. But the MediaTek is more than powerful enough for your social media apps and most other general smartphone apps. The battery life is not bad either, with a 3300 mAh cell, which easily lasted me to the end of most days that I've used it. It also has Sony's adaptive charging, so basically it learns your charging patterns so it doesn't overcharge your battery and kill the battery life in the long run. And the L3 actually surprised me with the amount of unlock features it has. It's got face unlock, it's got voice unlock, and of course that fingerprint reader on the side, which is actually very snappy and rarely ever fails. And I actually have all three of these switched on at the same time, so whenever I pick up the device I had three choices to unlock it, so it just depends on what I feel like at the time. The cameras on the Xperia L3 are not bad given the price point. The Xperia L3 has a dual camera setup. You've got a primary 13 megapixel camera and a 2 megapixel depth sensor, but more on that later in the video. And I found this within the user interface. Sony have actually thrown in some experimental stuff, which is good to see. You've got this high contrast mode which sharpens all your text characters on screen, and that's pretty cool. Also, there's this color correction mode, which has a pretty strange effect system-wide, so I'm not sure you're going to want to use that. And there's another color inversion setting which inverts everything, including all your photos, pretty much everything on the device. The menus look really good in this mode. It's kind of like an unfinished dark mode. Not sure you're going to want to use that either. And that brings me on to a question for you guys. There'll be a poll up in the top corner. What do you guys think about dark mode? Do you like it? Should it be there on this device? Answer that poll, let me know. But let's carry on with the video. The LCD HD Plus screen is quite good considering the price tag. There's not much color shift when it's off axis. When watching movies, its clarity is actually quite sharp, and there's a definitive pop when it comes to the red colors. And there's actually a white balance adjustment setting within the menus, but to be honest, most people won't need to mess with that. As for the phone's performance, I tested this out pretty heavily with some lengthy PUBG sessions and it holds up well. Yes, I couldn't run it on the highest graphics settings or anything like that, but my gaming experience on the device was pretty seamless, so that's a good thing. The sound quality coming from that downward speaker is not amazing, it's not going to blow your mind, but with that said, you've got a headphone jack. So get yourself some Sony WH-1000X M3 headphones and you're good to go. Now onto my favorite section, awesome features. Cameras on the Xperia L3 have a couple of great things about them. The rear camera and the front camera both support a bokeh, aka blurry background effect. So that's pretty awesome to see on an entry-level device. Also, there's some crazy settings with the portrait selfie mode where you can make your eyes bigger, make your face thinner and stuff like that. Good fun to play around with. Also within the camera app, there's a bunch of presets that will actually help you to take better photos. It doesn't have AI, so it won't switch to these automatically, but you can choose the type of scene you're shooting and it will adjust the camera for that photo. And the rear camera also supports high dynamic range, so you can get more detail out of those photos as well. Even though the L3 is an entry-level device, Sony has still integrated NFC, which means you can do contactless payments with your phone and also pair devices with one touch using the NFC on this device. And that's a feature you don't always see on an entry-level phone, so it's good to see that NFC is there. And one of the most awesome features for me is the overall build quality of this phone. It actually feels surprisingly premium for such an affordable device. Nothing feels cheap, and actually when it comes to entry-level devices, this is one of the nicest that I've ever seen in terms of build quality. You've got that Sony Japanese premium feel to it, and that's a nice thing. Even the way it feels in the hand and the weight of the device is just spot on. So would I recommend this at the price point this comes in at? Yes, I definitely would. And Vodafone are actually giving this phone away for free with a £20 a month tariff. So that's a really, really good deal for this device. And guys, if you like this Sony video, check out this other Sony video that I made earlier in the year. You might dig it. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up and a Hulk smash of that subscribe button, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss more Sony content in the future. I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't be late.